Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan so far has won little support for his proposal to cut the federal deficit and to cut future Social Security benefits. My next guest says a better plan would be to end what he calls tax breaks for the rich. Cay Johnson is the author of the book Perfectly Legal, the covert campaign to rig our tax system to benefit the super rich and cheat everybody else. And he joins us tonight from Portland, Oregon. Good to have you here, David.
Thank you, Lou.
This is incendiary stuff, class warfare stuff in a campaign year like this, as you well know. Let's back it up. What do you mean that the rich are being subsidized by Social Security, of all things?
Well, in 1983, Alan Greenspan persuaded the Democrats, who were in charge of Congress, to overtax us on Social Security. That is, to collect taxes in advance rather than on a pay-as-you-go system. The promise was that we would use the excess taxes to pay off the federal debt, which was then about $1 trillion. We've now paid $1.8 trillion in excess Social Security taxes. This year, the government will collect, if you make $50,000, about $7,500 from you. It only needs $5,000 to pay current benefits. That other $2,500 wasn't used to pay off the federal debt, which is now $7 trillion. Instead, it's being used to finance tax cuts for the super rich.
Yeah, we're putting up a graph right now which goes to the to that issue of precisely what you're talking about. Now, why in the world would FICA be limited at $87,000 of earnings, taxation on $87,000? Why not carry that straightforwardly through for everyone at higher levels?
Well, it's limited to the 90% of wages in the country. And the theory is that that's as high a benefit as the government's going to pay. So your benefit caps out, and that's why the tax stops. And if we simply had a pay-as-you-go tax and it stopped at that end, Lou, I don't think there would be an issue. But since we were told you've got to pay in advance, and of course a tax paid in advance costs you a lot more than when you can defer off into the future, that you're going to pay in advance for these benefits. And now that money has not been spent to pay off the debt, and now Mr. Greenspan says you're not going to get those benefits, but we should not raise taxes on those who make millions of dollars a year. It seems to me that what Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan predicted in 1983 has come true. He said this was thievery and that the middle class were going to have their pockets picked by the rich.
And indeed, with that analysis, that's precisely what is happening. And the middle class at this point, hardworking men and women in this country, are no longer being surprised by some of the pressures and forces that are working against them. What is your best judgment for a solution?
Well, in the case of Social Security, if we were to go back to pay-as-you-go, people making $50,000 a year would have $48 a week more in their pocket, and particularly if we took it all out of the side paid by the worker. So we cut that in half, and the match, instead of being dollar for dollar by your employer, it would be $2 to $1. People that have $50,000 would have $48 a week more in their pocket. They could choose whether to save that money or whether to spend that money. But it would be their money and it would be their choice. Now, that would also...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would also mean, however, that the federal government would either be spending vastly more than it's taking in, a couple $100 billion a year, and we'd either have to deal with that or raise taxes on people who have higher incomes.
Let's put that graph up. We have a graphic of this from your book that we want to show you. Maximum Social Security taxes per person, doing exactly what David suggested. This is remarkable. And to look at the income growth from 1970 to 2000, for the bottom, if you will, 99% of this country versus the top 1/100th of 1% is staggering. And I follow these trends rather carefully, but I had no idea of the discrepancy there.
If you chart, Lou, the increase in income for the bottom 99% of Americans over that 30-year period, for each dollar that each person got in increased income, and the average was $2,700, less than $100 a year, and you made it 1 inch high, for the top 1/100th of 1%, or 27,000 people, it's 625 feet high. 625 feet to 1 inch.
And the solution is there. The fact that Alan Greenspan, the Fed chairman, would raise the issue, I think, is commendable. The suggestion, in my opinion, that the first solution that should be sought is to cut the benefits of future retirees is reprehensible. What is your reaction?
Well, we can choose in America if we want to have a system in which the middle class and the upper middle class, people making $30,000 to $500,000 a year, subsidize people who make millions of dollars. And if Americans want to vote for that, then they should do it. I just don't think, Lou, that I just don't think Americans would have gone for this if they'd known what's happening. And since it was Mr. Greenspan who said, pay your tax in advance, and now he says, no, we're not going to give you the benefits, but we can't raise taxes on the rich, that seems to be morally troubling.
Okay, let me ask the question that everyone listening and watching, listening to and watching you right now wants to know. That $1.7 trillion in extra collections on Social Security, where's their money?
We spent it. We spent it on tax cuts for the super rich. In 1993, the 400 highest income people in America paid 30 cents on the dollar in income taxes. By 2000, they were down to paying 22 cents on the dollar. Had the Bush cuts been in effect, they would have paid 17 cents on the dollar. Everybody else in America went from 13 cents up to 15. So the super rich in America have more of their money after taxes, and everybody else has less.
David, do you ever share with people your political affiliation?
Well, it's a matter of public record. I don't go around talking about it. I'm a registered Republican.
I just wanted to get it on the record, but I wanted to be sure that that was okay with you. David Cay Johnson, your presence here tonight is greatly appreciated. We thank you. I want to say I don't often do this. I'd like to say to our viewers that his book, Perfectly Legal, is definitely worth your read. This is a complex issue, but what he reveals in that book is amazing, as you've just heard part of it. David Cay Johnson, the book is Perfectly Legal. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Lou.
Let's take a look at some of your thoughts about Social Security in particular. Larry McDonald of San Miguel, California. Of course we have to consider cutting Social Security payments. We're busy sending thousands upon thousands of jobs overseas that would have paid into the system and helped keep it afloat. Bill Hosinger of San Jose, California. It sounds like the best way to fix Social Security, maybe even improve it, is to do away with the outrageous retirement benefits of legislators and dump that money into Social Security, and they can draw the same benefits as everyone else. Bob Goldberg of New Orleans. Lou, it seems ironic that while U.S. jobs are being sent overseas, our schools are floundering to provide the basics of education which would give potential workers the ability to compete in the global marketplace. Emilio of Hartford, Connecticut. When a few thousand gay people get marriage licenses, our president acts with a proposal for a constitutional amendment. When a few million people lose their jobs, there's just a lot of talk about free trade, but no action. And Lily of Little Rock, Arkansas, suggests if Bush wants to protect marriage, why doesn't he propose an amendment banning divorce? We love hearing from you. Email us your thoughts at loudobbs@cnn.com. I'd like to recommend two columns in leading newspapers today that I think you might enjoy. One from New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman.